before me and Coops that the first half of the race was pretty good, but the rest was just not good. A bit dull to say the least.
I didn't get to watch the first half of the race because I was working.
Mate.
So I tuned. So I was listening to it. So I had a pair of headphones. I listened to it on 5 laps. I was like, oh, this sounds really great. And then I tuned in after about 30 or so laps. And I wish I hadn't. It was just like really nothing happening.
No, it wasn't a good one after that. I do like the track. I think even if there's not a lot happening, just watching the cars drive around there with all the elevation changes and stuff, it's more exciting than somewhere that's like flat as a pancake, like half the bloody circuits are these days on the calendar.
I think the camera shot for the last corner, coming up and over and down the hill as they go into that straight, is quite good.
It's an action shot, isn't it? It's great.
Yeah. It'll probably be the last time we'll see it on the circuit, because I don't think Formula One are going to remember the circuits that helped them out the last couple of years. I think they'll just go back to where they were.
Yeah, back in Shanghai for round 3.
I would. Well, in saying that, there is rumours that China isn't coming back, but I haven't heard it. I've heard it. I haven't seen anything. It's just been rumour that it's not going to come back. If it does, it'll be a wee while away. And then I heard another rumour that Formula One are wanting to do a rotational calendar. So maybe have a bank of, say, 30 and have 24, 25 circuits every year. So they swap round, which would make sense. Not sure how financially viable it would be for the promoters, mind you. But
yeah, that's the thing. They've talked about that. I remember them. In about 2011, I think they said, going forward, we can't have 25 races in a season. We're going to have to rotate. But then they changed the Concord agreement to allow for 25 races. I think they'd rather have 30 races, as ridiculous as it sounds. I think they'd rather have that than do the rotational one, to be honest. I can honestly see that.
It just depends how they do it. I mean, you've got Jeddah coming in. God knows how long that track will last. That track looks awful.
2 years it's meant to last, and they're doing a new one for Saudi after that.
Yeah, then they're switching to permanent track, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, let's hope that one looks decent. The Miami track doesn't look great. It looks like Sochi 2.0.
Yeah.
God only knows when Vietnam's also going to come back onto the calendar.
Oh, God, I forgot about that.
That's coming back. I thought it was already gone.
For this year.
It's not happening for this year.
I'd already had it.
I think it'll bite the dust.
As far as I know, it's not coming back, because the guy that was the kind of main person for it's been arrested and now in jail for corruption. Yeah. And the government was like, no, we don't want to put any more money in it. So, I mean, it's a good pub quiz question, because it's probably the only track that was in an F1 game that was never actually raced on. So...
yeah,
that could be good to remember for someone trying to catch you out.
Well, hopefully it's not on the 2021 game.
It's definitely not on the 2021 game.
Oh, it's so bad to drive this year. It's like I don't want to.
There is some relief from that though, because in the MotoGP game that's just come out, they give you the option at the start to go with the official calendar or the full one. So i.e. the one they were meant to race with or the one they actually are. So hopefully F1 does the same thing, because I think we'd all rather race around Imola and Portimao than China and Vietnam. So
well, they've said that Portimao and Imola are in, because they were agreed before the race. It's a post-launch download for those two. But they're not putting Turkey in because it's too long to do the modelling for it, because they've only just announced that Turkey's coming in instead of Canada. So it's definitely Portimao and Imola are in, and Vietnam and China are out, because it's based on the calendar that was launched. It's just God knows when they will finally put them out. So I don't know what you'll get instead of it. They might have China and Vietnam, but apparently they're changing it to put in whatever kind of campaign you want. So you can do like a 10 race calendar, and you can alternate them every year, or you can do like a full race calendar, or somewhere in between. And then you could do a two-player season, local. Like you can have both you guys racing in a season campaign. Like I don't know if it'll be my team, but it'll be a championship. So you can have both of you guys in as your teammates.
It sounds all great, and then you just remember that it's EA, and then it's like it's going to be fundamentally broken probably for.
I'm hoping that because EA came in so late that this year's game will get a reprieve.
I think it will do, yeah.
I think next year we might see, like, if you want this circuit, you know, if you want to do a strategy that's two softs and a medium, you've got to pay for your soft tyres or something. Pay for the front wing, and I'm like, I'm not Mazepin. I don't need, or Grosjean, you know.
Any damage that you actually cause in game, they will charge you.
Oh my god! Can you imagine? Oh god!
Oh, you've not your front wing. That's a £5 every time.
And no option to turn off damage.
Why have you been playing the F1 game for 12 hours? I need to work off my debt, all right? I'm hundreds of pounds in the hole. I need to get out.
They'll bring in the ultimate team, because that seems to be the thing that EA like.
Yeah, they're doing that definitely.
That's coming in 100%.
They've announced that there'll be like 7 classic drivers. That's well on the way to an F1 ultimate team. That surely it's got to be.
They need to start bringing back classic tracks. I can't be honest with it. Like,
yeah,
when they brought that in for F1 2013, I was like, oh, that's brilliant. Like, I mean, they picked 2 tracks to begin with that were absolutely terrible to race around in Brands Hatch and Jerez. But like, it's an idea they really should bring back.
I like the idea of them, but do you know, I never actually bothered with them. Even when it came to a couple of years ago, where you had to, you know, occasionally jump into a wee, like one of the old cars to do something. I didn't bother. If I could skip it, I skipped it. This last game, then you got money for it for your my team, so I'm like, of course I'm doing it. But I just didn't. I don't know. I just didn't really float my boat as much as actually racing the game.
Yeah, the opposite to Owain, who purely plays classic cars and does all the invitational events, and then actually sits down to play the game for like the last month before the new game comes out, and then you just do rinse and repeat.
Oh god! Right, lads, shall we get going?
Okay.
Sir Lewis Hamilton showed exactly why he's a 7-time Formula One world champion with his commanding drive in Portugal. But can Red Bull and Max Verstappen make a comeback at the site of his first win 5 years ago? Welcome back to the Formula One Grid Talk podcast, everybody. This is episode number 102, where I'll be previewing the 2021 Spanish Grand Prix. I'm your host, George Howson, and I am joined today by multimedia journalist Louis Edwards.
Hello.
From the Everything F1 podcast, it's Coops.
Hello.
And the master of engineering himself, it's Jack Watson.
Hello.
I love the eye roll that he always does when I do that title. I'm never going to stop it, mate. You should be proud of that master of engineering. I'm just a mere bachelor, I'm afraid. But before we get into the show, it's ad time, it's Manscaped time. So you lads are already on mute, which is very helpful. Thank you very much for that. So this podcast is brought to you by Manscaped. If you haven't tried Manscaped, they're a company that produces quality products for your downstairs areas. Manscaped were kind enough to send us some products to try, and I really like them, and I generally do mean that, guys. I really do. Now, during lockdown, making sure that our front hedges are nicely trimmed has never been the top of priorities. Let's be honest here. But as things start to open up, you need to make sure you're looking as good as possible. This is my favorite for the job. It's the Lawnmower 3.0, and it comes with a handy light, which you on the video can now see, which is an absolute godsend, let me tell you. I can't recommend giving Manscaped a go enough, and every listener of the Grid Talk podcast can get 20% off their first order when they sign up using the code GridTalk20. That's Grid Talk, no spaces, 20. And now back to the show. So, lads, we do have Spain coming up next. A circuit that's, it's fair to say, is famed for not being the most entertaining to watch the cars around, Louis. But there is something different this year, at least. We haven't gone pre-season testing there. This will be the first time that the drivers have been there this season. So perhaps in that sense, we could get a bit more action than what we've been used to here.
Yeah, it's usually the case that when the teams rock up to Barcelona sort of this time, they've got so much data of the track, from pre-season testing that they already know where all the other teams stand. They roughly know where their own car stands, and it's usually never much of a surprise. And while very little has changed between last year's cars and this year's cars, there is definitely that unknown factor going into this weekend, which is nice. Whether it will make the racing better, I don't know. It just maybe qualifying might be a bit more interesting, but I think we could probably guarantee that the racing is going to be as dull as it usually is.
Well, I hope you're wrong, but I think you may well be right with that one. The Circuit de Catalonia is not famed for it. I mean, we were talking just before the show about why don't they just use the MotoGP layout? Why do they have to have that Mickey Mouse chicane right at the end of the lap? I don't understand it personally. I know it was made because of safety, but there's a lot faster corners that are allowed in F1 these days than the two final ones in Catalonia. But anyway, I digress. Coops, welcome to the show. It's your first time on here. It's fair to say we've had a proper championship battle between drivers from two different teams so far, Sir Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. Who do you see having the edge going into this one? Obviously, Mercedes did look comfortably faster than Red Bull at Portugal, but could that be any different for Spain?
Well, definitely. I mean, Verstappen did come out and say that it was a weird one at Portimao. They just couldn't seem to get a handle on the grip and warming up their tyres throughout the whole weekend, so they were just a wee bit slower. However, if stats are to be believed, Hamilton's won the last 4, 17, 18, 19 and 20. Hamilton's won in a row. So if you believe stats and it's Mercedes and it's Hamilton, you're going to go down the Hamilton route. But it's unpredictable this year. So as you guys have touched on, it's been a wee while since we've been there. We haven't had pre-season testing. The track has been slightly reprofiled for turn 10. So there are a couple of things in there that could make it interesting. But then interesting and Spanish Grand Prix at Catalonia are two things that don't tend to go together. So I don't see how a slightly reprofiled turn 10 is really going to make too much of a difference. I'd like to be wrong, but I think I'll stick my neck out though and think that it's probably going to be a Mercedes or at least Hamilton that will win this one.
Yeah, like you said, Hamilton does all right here. 4 wins in a row in the last 4 years. So that's quite ominous. Yeah, I forgot that they actually reprofiled turn 10, which when I first heard about it, I thought, great, that'll be a lot easier to drive in the game now. But then a few of us in the group did say it actually makes the track worse to pass because it's made that corner faster now. So it's eliminated another. Well, I mean, there's only really 2 opportunities to pass. I think now there's 1, and that's into turn 1. It's hard to see drivers getting past there, even with DRS. Something that could throw a spanner into the works, though, Jack, is I've just looked at the weather forecast, and it is meant to have heavy rain in Barcelona on Sunday for the race. Now, if that sticks, we all know how good Max Verstappen is in the wet weather, but so is Sir Lewis Hamilton. So who do you see? Who do you think is going to come out on top out of those two? You there, Jack?
Sorry, my connection went a bit iffy there. Touching on what you said there about the weather, that should throw a bit of a spanner in the works, like you say. It's the sort of thing that we would want to help spice that race up. I know that of the teams that we had at Portugal, I'm not too sure I agree with Coops quite so much. I think Red Bull will be a bit more confident going into Spain than they were at Portugal because they were complaining so much about that low grip surface throughout the race. They know that this is a bit more of an abrasive circuit. And also compared to when it was last year, I believe, the temperature should be less of an anomaly. So they seem a bit more confident in the performance they can extract from their car. So I don't think Mercedes will be as clear as they think, given the fight that Red Bull have already managed to put up. But yeah, if rain is also being involved, we've seen once already how that seems to have swung the balance a little bit. So yeah, let's see how we go.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. If it does rain, I mean, we always get rain forecasted, and it doesn't usually arrive. But it did at Imola before Portugal, so you never know. We'll have to see what happens with that. But we have had 3 different pole sitters so far this season, Louis. I mean, it's a hell of a fight between Hamilton and Verstappen. They seem to have got Hamilton won the first race, Verstappen won the second race, Hamilton then won the third race, what we just had in Portugal. I mean, I really do like this. It's a real proper championship battle. It's a fascinating one. But something we've not touched on so far are the second drivers, Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez. With how hard it is to pass in Spain, could they play a role in how this race shapes out?
Saturday is going to be incredibly important. I think it's kind of it's almost like Monaco in that sort of sense. Is that because the track is so difficult to overtake, where you qualify on Saturday really matters. And last time in Portugal we saw it was a Mercedes 1-2 and a Red Bull 3-4, but while Max got a decent start, Perez got a really bad start. So it is going to be all about sort of getting off the line well. Bottas showed in Portugal that he is more than capable to, keep up with this battle. It isn't just going to be, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen fighting for pole position, every race weekend. Bottas is there and he does have the pace at least to compete, on the Saturday. But, Mercedes need to make sure that they've got their both cars on the front row to give them the best chance for maximum points, and Red Bull vice versa. But I think it could be an interesting one. Perez went very well around here last year in his racing points, and I expect even a better car like the Red Bull, he could do very well. And, I think, like Jack said, I think Red Bull could really, put the pressure on Mercedes this weekend, and yeah, it really could be an interesting qualifying battle.
Definitely. Qualifying at Catalonia is always really important. I don't expect that to be any different this weekend coming up. So someone we've not mentioned so far is Lando Norris. Now, he sits 3rd place in the championship going into this round in his McLaren. I mean, Coops, what do you make of Norris this season? I mean, he just looks, to me, he looks so assured. He looks like a seasoned veteran, but he's only in his 3rd season. He's only 20 or 21 years old. He's really, really impressing, and he's really shown Daniel Ricciardo up this season so far, who's relatively struggled. I mean, he did recover fairly well from a poor qualifying in Portugal, but he didn't exactly send the world alight, did he?
No, touching on Daniel first, I mean, it took him at least, if memory serves me right, when he first moved to Renault, you're talking at least 5 races before he kind of got to grips with it. And then he kind of showed what he was capable of. So we've got more to see from Daniel. I think the qualifying was disappointing in Portimao for Ricciardo, at least. But yeah, going on to Lando, I mean, he's shown me up, to be honest, because in a conversation I had in the other podcast I'm on, I said that Lando isn't quite in the championship conversation yet. You talked about Verstappen, you talked about George Russell, but you didn't really quite mention Lando Norris in the same kind of category. But that's kind of now happening. He's went away. He's got rid of that kind of silly, kind of attitude that he had. Maybe obviously that isn't what he does in the car, but in the social media, coming in with somebody like Daniel Ricciardo, you can't be like that. And he's just shown, he's got rid of a lot of the wee kind of problems that he had with his race starts weren't great for the first couple of years. He's got his elbows out. He's not a gentleman anymore. He comes out at the start of the races and he shows that he's there to stay, and he puts it in there. So, he's definitely a driver that deserves to be there and is more and more assured, and is one that you would like to think would stay at McLaren as long as they keep going up the way.
Yeah, McLaren have been improving. Lando Norris has been improving a lot as well. He's ahead of Bottas, he's ahead of Leclerc, he's ahead of Perez, he's third in the championship. It's a big old gap up to Verstappen and Hamilton. Realistically, it's between those two for the title. But who knows? Maybe Lando Norris, he could end up fourth or fifth when this all shakes out. If Perez and Bottas are still inconsistent, you never know. He's always there picking up points, and he got a podium on merit at Imola as well. So yeah, very good times for McLaren. They are third in the championship. Fourth in the championship, though, hanging on to their coattails, just 11 points behind Jack, is Ferrari. Much improved from last season, obviously. Charles Leclerc, he's been putting in some very incredible performances. Carlos Sainz, though, going into his home race, he did not have the best time in Portugal, but I think that was mainly to do with the strategy. He just spent too long on his second set of tyres.
Yeah, absolutely. That soft medium strat just didn't work at all for him. It became very clear that the colder temperatures needed the hard tyre, because it seemed almost like they couldn't fire up the softer rubber in the cold track temperatures. Something else that you've noticed with Ferrari is that their race pace just doesn't seem quite there yet. You get the headlines of their quali pace, and yeah, I know, was it Leclerc hanging on to fourth at Imola, but overall, it's not quite seemed to come to him or stick with him, I should say, in the race. Here at Catalunya, it seems like that could be a reversal of fortune. We've already discussed how hard it is to overtake and follow, in fact. So if they can qualify well, similar in a way to how we see at Monaco, it's a lot harder to affect that pass, especially if turn 10 is now less of an opportunity for drivers. So yeah, if they can sort of stick with what they have managed to pull off so far and get a strong qualifying, and perhaps even jump one or two at the start, like we saw, I think it was Sainz having a crack at Lando at the start of Portimao. They're not afraid to get stuck in. Then it could actually be a decent haul of points for the pair of them, just because they're able to hang on or hold on enough to produce a big enough gap during the technical part of the circuit.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a long old run into turn one at Catalunya as well. We've seen Alonso, I think he started fourth or fifth one year, was leading into turn one. So you can really make places up at the start of this race. It is hard to overtake, but if you get a very good launch off the line, you can make some good progress straight away. Speaking of making progress as well, Louis, Alpine, they come into this race fifth in the Constructors' Championship. And fair play to him. Alonso, some of us in the show were giving him driver of the day, but let's not play down how good Ocon was as well. He qualified in sixth place, finished in seventh. We kind of wrote them off a little bit. We thought, well, maybe they're just preparing for next year. The car doesn't look that good. The airbox is stupidly big, but at Portimao, they did really well. So at a fairly similar track like Catalunya, they could repeat that performance.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely on the cards. Their straight line speed looks, pretty decent. It's going to help them up massively, especially on, when the one overtaking spot really on the track is a very long straight. So they could really play into their hands. And, it's Fernando. It is his home Grand Prix. He'll be wanting to put on a show. He's put on many great shows around the Circuit de Catalunya in the past. No doubt he can do it again. And Ocon, he's really finding this pace now. We really sort of struggled with him throughout last year, and it was kind of painful to watch at points. But he's getting more comfortable in this car now. He's getting more comfortable in the team, and it's really starting to show that he's starting to extract everything that he can from that Alpine car. And while maybe in Bahrain we were looking at that Alpine's like, yeah, it may not be the most competitive, it seems to be really coming on leaps and bounds. And if they can produce something similar that they did in Portugal into Spain, that could be huge for the Constructors' Championship later on in the season.
Definitely, yeah. It's a big old gap to Ferrari ahead of them, but they can always beat the people behind them. And one of the teams behind them, surprisingly, Coops, is AlphaTauri. Now, some of us on this show have said that maybe they can even get as high as fourth. Maybe they can beat Ferrari this season. But despite a fast car, they just can't seem to get points from it. I mean, Tsunoda was very anonymous at Portugal. Pierre Gasly, he got a point in the end, but that's not where the car should be. They should be up there with Ferrari and McLaren, I think, in terms of performance, but they're just not showing it so far.
No, they're not, and you're right. It's not the car. The car is a very handy piece of kit. They've had their run of bad luck. Gasly tripping over Ricciardo at the first race, Tsunoda binning it in the next race at Imola in qualifying. And to be honest, Tsunoda's performance, although if you take away the conditions, I think the conditions affected him just as much as most of them. But I think the performance from Tsunoda is a hangover from the previous race. I think he kind of reined it in a wee bit. He still get chinned for track limits pretty much every other time anytime you heard about Tsunoda, it was because it was track limits. I think it was lap 13. He'd already been won twice. So yeah, I mean, Tsunoda, he just needs to calm it down a bit. It's going to come to him. He has the raw pace. He needs to bring it in a bit, and it could just be luck. They could just luck into a decent result. I will disagree a wee bit. I don't think they're going to go over Ferrari. I don't think they're going to get past Ferrari. I think they might get in amongst it. But when you've got Leclerc and Sainz as your two drivers, they're consistent, they're dependable. They're going to, over the course of hopefully a 23-day season, I don't see how, with the consistency of those two drivers are going to lose out to the AlphaTauri unless they have a really bad run of luck. But at the moment, the Ferraris seem to be doing a decent job. Touching on your point a wee bit about Alpine, they've got a good car. It's a very planted and very stable car. It's the engine that's the biggest problem, I think, for them. They are particularly underpowered. And with this being a slightly higher downforce circuit, you could see Alonso flinging it into a decent points position. I wouldn't be surprised if the two of them get into at least the top 10 for qualifying and get into the top 10 for the race. It's just that long straight and being slightly underpowered that's going to be the issue. But they should hopefully be running on a particularly good wave after a not spectacular race at Portimao, but it was safe. They got some points. They done well. And if you've listened to the podcast at Everything F1, I don't like Ocon. I can't stand him. I don't think he should be on the race. He should be on the track. But he's slowly shown that he can race a car, I suppose.
He has surprised me this season. I'm surprised to see him beating Alonso fair and square at Imola and at Portugal. I didn't see that coming, to be honest with you. Even with Alonso coming back after 2 years out, I didn't see that coming. But he's shown that he's a more experienced person in that team, and he's shown to be decent so far. He's brought up points home twice already. I'm with you as well, Coops, when it comes to AlphaTauri. I don't think they can beat Ferrari. I thought they might have done at the start of the season after Bahrain. I thought these guys have got serious pace, but even with pace isn't everything. You need to convert it first. To finish first you must finish, and they've not been finishing, at least not in the points anyway, regularly. I think they'll get it. I think they should get fifth though. But yeah, Ferrari are doing decent so far this season. Sainz and Leclerc are very dependable hands. They know how to get points out of that car. I think Sainz not getting points in Portugal is a bit of a blip, to be honest with you. Don't expect to see that again at Spain, but we'll see what happens. Speaking of cars outside of the points, Jack, both Aston Martins failed to score at Portimao. It's Sebastian Vettel's worst start to a season since 2008. He's not scored a single point so far this season, which I was surprised to read up. I didn't expect to see that. But it's not his fault. At the end of the day, the car just doesn't have the pace. I mean, Lance Stroll's converted it to points twice, but it was a dismal outing for them in Portugal. I mean, how do you see them getting on in Spain?
Not well, to be honest. I don't know. I mean, we still have this whole high rake, low rake, balance, whatever going on, and they just haven't recovered. I think they're one of the teams that have been committing to the next year fairly early, so they're not too bothered about developing. Hence why they were bickering so much in the past few races. So yeah, given the reliance on downforce for this one, I can't see them doing very well. It's sort of like it's another one where their race performances are is it qualifying is flattered to deceive? They've qualified a lot better than you'd think they would, especially Vettel getting top 10 at Portimao. But again, it just couldn't hang on. They sort of switched around. Stroll was awful in quali and then actually clawed something back, and Vettel just plummeted like a stone. I can't expect, but yeah, I can't expect much at all out of them at Spain, unfortunately. The car's just not underneath them. Yeah, they're both experienced. It's fair to say Stroll's experienced now, but yeah, I wouldn't expect too much, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't see a hell of a lot happening, to be honest with you. I did think that last year, though, going into this race for Vettel, but he did do a very good job, even though this team hung him out on tyres for ages. I think he got 6th or 7th in the end, something like that. That was a very good day. One of very few good days for him last season for Ferrari. But we'll see how they get on at Catalonia. Moving on. So next up, Louis, we have Alfa Romeo, and I just cannot believe that incident with Kimi Räikkönen still. I mean, I've said it in the chat that we're in, that I don't want to beat on the guy, but if there's a moment where he thinks, right, I've not got it anymore, if he's changing a setting on the steering wheel and he's hitting his teammate, that it's going to be that. But saying that, I don't think the car is too bad this season. I think they could be up there with Aston Martin at this race. But how do you see them getting on? Because it's still not a great car. Points is still going to be difficult to get, but any points they get in that battle with the bottom three, it's going to be crucial coming into the season.
Yeah, it's certainly a bit more competitive this year, but yeah, it's the Alfa Romeo is kind of one of those, like, you rock up to a Grand Prix, you don't know where they're going to be. You really don't. Are they going to be knocking on the sort of the doors of Q3, or are they going to be out in Q1, or are they just going to be sort of safely in Q2? It's very difficult to put your finger on. And, you know, we have seen, you know, times this season where both, you know, Kimi and Antonio have done very well. And yeah, I think this weekend is going to be another tricky one. But, you know, I think they have the performance in the car. If something is to go a bit awry at the, you know, the front end of the field, they can be there to collect some points. And I think that is where they need to be. They need to make sure that, because it is clear that I think they are, especially in terms of race pace, much faster than the Haas and, you know, quicker than the Williams. And that's where they need to sort of just maybe keep up with the likes of Aston Martin and maybe even AlphaTauri at times, just to, you know, sort of scrape the barrel for some points.
Yeah, any points they get are going to be valuable for sure. But they are still on 0, unfortunately, the same as Williams and the same as Haas as well. But we will talk about Williams Coops. I mean, I was very disappointed with them in the race in Portimao. You know, Russell really flattered to deceive with his qualifying lap, P11. If he repeats that at Catalonia and is able to keep his position, then great. He'll be right in there at the end with points, nearly at least. But in the race in Portimao, they were just miles off. I'd argue they were maybe even slower than the Haas, you know, which is really not a good sign.
No, definitely not. I mean, the only plus point is it was Mick Schumacher that split the Williams in the Portimao. It wasn't the mobile chicane, or Mazepin, as he's actually known.
We call him Voldemort, remember that.
Okay. Call him anything but a Formula One driver, he is not. But the problem with Williams is that they've got a car that's very peaky. So I think during the race at Portimao, as you guys said there, he started in 11th, and I think he finished, there was only one retirement, so you're talking 17th, 16th, and he went down there pretty quickly and stayed there. Now, the problem was that the car became undrivable as soon as it tried to follow MD, which is it's a product of the design of the Williams for this year. They went with a car that has this, it's like an ultra fine balance between the aero working and the aero not working. Unfortunately, in Portimao, it didn't. so you ended up where they are. They're going in the right direction. Williams are a team similar to what McLaren were maybe 3-4 years ago. They've went through a bad spell. They're bringing in a lot of people that are very well respected. Jos Capito is a very capable CEO. They're bringing in a couple other people. There's somebody that they've just had, and his name escapes me. So they're stabilizing the ship. They're bringing in some decent money, especially with the cap. So, I think this year, as long as George Russell doesn't get scared when he's behind a safety car and bins it again, hopefully we should see him getting a couple of points. I don't know what it is about being behind the safety car, but some drivers seem to panic, I don't know, and end up hitting the wall. It's a strange one. But anyway, hopefully we'll see him in the points. But they're certainly getting somewhere. Let's just hope that there isn't too much wind or issues with the weather over the course of the weekend, and the aero of Williams actually behaves itself and they can actually race.
George Russell for the points. That might not be the last time that you hear that during this podcast. I can't confirm that, but yeah, we'll move on. We'll move on. Hopefully for them it's less windy as well. I feel that probably did not help them during the race, especially with unpredictability. I mean, it affects everybody, but it probably affected them more, especially like you say, the peaky downforce. That is a very good way to describe it. So Jack, I'm sorry, but I've given you the short straw with this one. It's Haas, the last team to preview. I mean, what can you say? I mean, maybe if it's really windy, if it's really unpredictable, we could see Schumacher beating the Williams, but even that feels like a monumental effort. Getting anywhere near the top 10 is an impossible task in that car, really.
Oh yeah, no, top 10's just nowhere, not even considerable. I think it'll be a bit similar to how Portimao was, because as soon as they get in any traffic, which you will get in Spain, that Williams is going to fall apart. It just can't keep itself on track, as Coops said. In terms of Mazepin, the only thing I can say is he's done this track more times than any of the other ones he's been at. Moving on to Mick. I expect, like I say, same sort of thing. If he can keep it with Latifi, that was a reasonable bit of racecraft. Like, give him some credit from the pair of them. If he couldn't pull the same sort of thing, then it's kind of what Haas will need, and all they can really expect. Neither of them are going to be anywhere near the points. I don't think. The track's just not going to work for him, especially with that Haas leaving all their upgrades. It's shocking how much of a difference it's made to that car. If they can beat Latifi, if they can get ahead of Latifi, and maybe Alfa Romeo, if like Louis said, if they're on a bad day, maybe an Alfa, but that's about it for them.
Yeah, it's hard to see them really doing anything, really. I mean, they've stopped development on the car, and the longer this season goes on, the worse it's going to get. I mean, the 2 laps behind, I think they were both 2 laps behind at Portimao. It's going to be 3 or 4 by the end of the season. They are the well and true backmarkers of the field Haas this season, which I'm sure some people were very happy to see, but I don't like to see that for the team personally. I don't like to see them struggle in the way that they are. One of the drivers... Yeah. one of the drivers I'm more than happy to see struggle, but the other one, not so much. I don't like to see that.
Going to be like the anti-Williams, like the 2019 Williams. It's instead of starting off 3.5 seconds off the pace, they're gonna, they're gonna finish 3.5 seconds off the pace. It's
if they're lucky.
If they're lucky.
At this rate, it is not good reading for them. But hopefully good reading from you guys. I will we'll just say now, if you do leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, we will give you a shout out at the start of the show. Just download iTunes and look for the F1 Grid Talk on there, and we'll give you a shout out at the start of the show. As long as you don't have anything rude in your name, we can't do that. We're sponsored now, so you have to keep it PG. So moving on, we're going to do prediction times. So I'm going to say for my top 3, I'm going to be hopeful. I'm going to try and keep the championship battle going as close as it has been. I'm going to say, especially if it's wet, Max Verstappen to win. I'm going to say Lewis Hamilton for second, the usual top 2. And third, I'm going to say Sergio Perez. I want to see him get a podium for that Red Bull. He's still not had a podium yet for one reason or another for Red Bull. So I want to see him get a top 3, especially if it rains as well, because Valtteri Bottas is awful in the wet. He really is bad. Like the last few races in the wet, Turkey and Imola really did not make him look good at all.
He's not much better in the dry, to be fair.
He seems worse in the wet, to be honest. At least in the dry, you can keep it on the track. Like, how many times did he spin it at Turkey? Like 4 or 5? 8. Yeah, 7 or 8.
Every time you saw him in Turkey, he was facing the wrong way.
Yeah. That was embarrassing. That was not good for him. And then obviously in Imola, he was being legitimately overtaken by Williams before he crashed. There you go. Louis, what's your top 3 prediction?
I'm going to go with you. I'm also going to go Verstappen to win. Hamilton second. I don't know. Go a bit more like, because I could just choose Bottas or Perez, but I'm going to go with Lando Norris to get another podium. So 3rd place for Lando.
He did it in the wet last time at Imola. He got top 3. He could do it again if it's wet in Spain this weekend. Coops, what's your podium prediction?
This is the point where you see a Scottish person being a hypocrite, because I know it said at the start that I think Hamilton is probably going to win it. But purely
He's edging his bets.
No, purely because I want to have a really good campaign. I want Verstappen to do it. So I'm going to lead with my heart, and I'm going to say it's Verstappen ahead of Perez, and I'll go with Hamilton in 3rd.
Okay, Red Bull 1-2. Everybody's gone for Verstappen to win so far. Jack, is it going to be a full house?
Yes.
Yay!
No, I think Verstappen will get it, and I reckon it will finish off with Hamilton and Bottas. I don't think Perez will get it just yet. He's still getting used to it.
You never know. He could do 50 laps on the mediums again, and he could end up in 3rd. That's just Checo. Those Checo things. What can you do? So, bold prediction time. I think we all know what's coming now. I always predict it. I always go for it. It never happens. Honestly, I don't think there's any chance in hell it's going to happen this weekend, but I have to say it just for consistency. I've got to look out for my fellow George. It's George Russell in the points. Top 10 finish. First points for Williams. That's my bold prediction. Louis, what are you saying?
I'm going to go like opposite to you. I'm going to go Nicholas Latifi.
Oh,
first points.
That'd be so typical, wouldn't it? That'd be so typical if you got points for Williams before Russell.
Yeah, Nicholas Latifi for the points.
Oops, are you going for Schumacher for the points?
That's funny. My bold prediction is that the Haas are only going to be 2 laps down.
Come on, be realistic.
No, okay. I think. Okay, bold prediction. Aston Martin will get some points. I think we might see Vettel do something. Probably, I'll say Vettel probably get about 6th. I think that's my bold prediction.
That is very bold. Too bold.
It seems to be they seem to be the only team that are moaning about this low rake, high rake issue with the new regulations. I don't see Mercedes complaining about it. So
no, they've mentioned it, but they just get on with it. They just win. That's what they do. I think it was Phil who said it last week. Karen Safnauer, Aston Martin, just always complaining. I want to see your manager. Where did you come up with these rule changes?
Well, he was there. All teams voted unanimously for
don't use the
regulations.
Logic. Come on.
Then I mean, if we've all seen Drive to Survive, I mean, Lawrence Stroll's an intimidating big guy, is he not? I mean, I'm sure if you're having a meeting with him and things aren't going very well, you're wanting to start blaming somebody else. I think Snafnauer is in a bit of a sticky situation. They've got a car, they've got a decent budget, they're not performing, and then you've got somebody like Stroll that I've just said who's like going, "Why is this not working?" So he's having to find something to moan about. But yeah, I think they'll do something. Plus, if you're saying it's going to be raining at the weekend, then you never know. You could see a Vettel up there. You should see George Russell or Latifi firing that into the top 10. That would be nice.
Yeah, and Lance Stroll is usually pretty good in the wet. He got a pole position at Turkey, got podium at Hockenheim 2019. He tends to do well in the wet, to be fair to him.
Yeah, he's slowly getting rid of this tag where he shouldn't be in Formula One. He's actually not. He's not ever. I wouldn't imagine he's ever going to win a championship, but he's going to be a pretty solid mid-card, dependable racer. I think. And I think he's shown that. He's certainly not a Mazepin. If you're talking about paid drivers, so I think Stroll's all right, and he certainly deserves to be where he is.
Yeah, I think Voldemort coming into Formula One has helped me in that regard. It's definitely deflected a lot of the haters onto the neutral competitor because he's not racing on the Russian flag, although he is racing in a mobile Russian flag.
I was just going to say, yeah, it's not, but it's red, white, and blue. It's American.
Oh, obviously, yeah, obviously. Jack, what's your podium prediction? Sorry, bold prediction. My bad.
I reckon that a Williams will outpace a Mercedes.
What, in qualifying?
In the race.
In the race. So you
is that where they're heading into the pit lane or something?
No, I know. Like on a clean track, we all know what's going to happen, but I don't think it's going to be a clean track. I think we're going to have something's going to go down. We're going to see an Imola repeat, I reckon.
Okay. I see what you're saying. There's an on-track battle between the Mercedes and the Williams at some point during the race.
Yes.
Ooh, okay. All right. I tell you what, if Bottas nearly gets passed again by a Williams, it just tear his contract up. Just leave. Like it's not going to work out at that point. There's no recovering from that.
He just gets back to the garage. And sees Toto with his contract and a lighter.
Yeah, just hovering over a shredder, just like, don't tell me, Valtteri.
Do you think that Toto was annoyed with George Russell at Imola more because, he's already told George Russell you're getting the seat next year in a kind of quiet term? So it's like, you don't need to prove to us you're getting the Mercedes seat.
Yeah, I agree. Yep.
Another thing I've noticed as well is the last couple of races, Toto's been coming on the radio to Bottas to tell him to, come on. They done it in Portimao. Like, you're the fastest guy in the track, move. And I'm sure they done it in Imola. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm sure something was mentioned.
I think they did, yeah.
Yeah. So, it's weird because Toto doesn't come on to the radio. He leaves that to the rest of the guys.
Yeah. I think I think you're right. I think they probably have signed the contracts, and that's why he's so mad. It's just like, come on, George, I've given you this chance. You've got it in the bag. Just don't mess this up, please. Don't make us look bad. And also, I think it's part of that with the radio, but I think also because they're in a proper fight, especially for the Constructors' Championship, the second drivers are going to be key, and I think he's just trying to get as much as possible out of Valtteri. And fair play, so far it's worked. Mercedes are ahead of Red Bull by 18 points, but that could easily swing the other way at some point during the season. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, that is the show. Something I need to mention as well. We didn't go out live for the qualifying show on Saturday, nor the race show on Sunday. And that was because the F1 Chronicle was taking part in the social media blackout, the social media boycott as it was this weekend to tackle online hatred. We believe the time for change is overdue and it is time to make a stand. As such, we stood in solidarity with everybody who has been a victim of online abuse, which includes some of the people that we have as panelists. I know of some people who have had some horrible things said about them, which is just ridiculous. And it needs to stop. So that's why we didn't go out live. There were no social media posts over the weekend, but this did go out live because it is Monday now. And we'll go out on Saturday as well to review the Spanish Grand Prix qualifying as well, just after the session finishes. We are also available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Verbal, Omni Studio, and Pocket Cast. Just search for the F1 Grid Talk on there. We've got over 100 episodes now. This qualifying show that we just had was episode number 100. So you got plenty to go through. And it's not just race reviews, previews, and qualifying reviews. It's also documentary style ones like about Ayrton Senna, about Tiregate, about the 1994 Benetton, things like that as well. You can check out all of those on YouTube and also on Spotify and the F1 Chronicles website too. And like I said, we will be back on Saturday to analyze qualifying for the Spanish Grand Prix. Who knows? Who knows what it's going to be like? And then obviously we've got Sunday as well, the race. And will it be wet? We'll find out. Thank you very much for joining us, lads. I really do appreciate it.
No worries.
Good to be here.
No to bother.
And yeah, we'll see you on Saturday for qualifying review. Until then, goodbye. All right, so still going out live on YouTube, but yeah, regular recording's done now.
Isn't the social media boycott ending tonight?
Midnight.
But it ended on Sunday night, didn't it?
No.
Midnight tonight.
Was it? Okay. Well, we went silent for 2 days, and I didn't know. I thought it was just this weekend, to be honest. And we've done more than what Formula One did. Let's be honest here, they didn't do anything. So,
Did they mention it? I don't think they did.
I think they did, but they were like,
Yeah.
It's like the BBC couldn't.
They're not allowed to.
Yeah.
The Golden Charter and stuff, they've got to do it. Sky Sports did do it.
Yeah.
And I think the teams didn't, but the drivers were allowed to do what they wanted, kind of thing.
Yeah, the drivers never. I don't think any of the drivers posted anything this weekend. Not that I've seen, at least.
No.
Yeah.
It was nice that Mazepin did come out in support of it. You know,
Probably the Haas PR team said, "You better bloody do this.
we need some good. We need some good press for you. Come on."
Yeah.
We've had it up to here with all the shit we get about you."
The social media manager for Haas, that's a job and a half, that, and
I feel sorry for him. I really do. Just post any video of the Russian driver, and it's just like, no, you can't say that. You can't do this.
Have you noticed when F1 have been posting the videos with the drivers doing those sort of like, don't know if you've seen them on like YouTube or Twitter, just like asking the drivers sort of like various questions. Mazepin is kept to a minimum. You do not. He comes on probably for a collective of about 20 to 30. Like 20, 25 seconds, and that's it. Out of like a 10-minute video, they do not include him at all.
I don't think they've got much of a choice, to be honest. It's just it's unfortunate because see if it wasn't for the stuff pre-start of the season, he'll just be talked about more as a case of a driver that probably shouldn't be there. It's just up to that extra level of hatred for him, which is a shame. But you know, he done it. He's got to deal with it, I suppose. It's still funny for us.
Yeah, it's such a messed up situation.
Right. Once in a while, isn't it? Like, especially.
But then, did you see the rumor that apparently Mazepin got driver of the day? That's why they never spoke about it at the end of the race.
Yeah, there was an online group that did it because they thought it would be a loss, so they just swamped the driver of the day vote for Mazepin.
They gave it to Perez, I think, didn't they? Officially.
Then later on, they said it was Perez and Mazepin wasn't even in the top 5, probably because they ignored his votes, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Every third one. Right, okay.
Well, it's Russian democracy, that isn't it? Really, just ignoring a bunch of the votes.
The taste of your own medicine.
Yeah, pretty much. Didn't they do that for Kubica as well, like a couple of years ago?
It was Haryanto.
Was it Haryanto?
The first driver of the day, Haryanto's because all of Indonesia voted for Haryanto.
Okay.
They probably brought it all in, just like because of Max Verstappen. He retired on like lap 2 in like the US Grand Prix, but still won driver of the day.
Yeah,
Like,
I remember that.
You do know that will happen at Zandvoort. You'll go out in the first corner and he'll get driver of the day.
Yeah.
He won't even make the grid. Something will blow up in his car and he'll still get voted as driver of the day.
You're right if he's not driver of the day. Like the whole crowd will be up in arms. Just having a look now. So yeah, the first driver of the day went to Rio Haryanto. He didn't finish. I did 17 laps and a drive shaft failure, but he got driver of the day.
What car was it he drove in? Was it an
Mana.
HRT or something? A Mana? Just as bad then?
Oh, no one's as bad as HRT.
HRT,
Oh.
great.
The hormone replacement team, as Christian Horner calls them.
Oh, they were fun.
Yeah.
I'm sure Kubica did get one, because I vaguely remember kind of going, Kubica? What? Really?
I remember he did. I think it was Austria.
Did they not say, was it not an error, quote unquote?
Yeah.
There was a problem and they gave it to, I don't know, whoever won or something. But it did pop up, driver of J Kubica. He was 4 laps down at the back of the grid. They bother, give that man a hand.
Right,
some people. Yeah.
Head off.
All right, no worries, pal.
So, right.
Good seeing you.
No worries. No, but
Yeah, but right.
See you later.
Oh my god, I remember. I think it were Hungary last year, and I remember I put my race report for Spotlight out, and I think someone commented on it, just like, how dare you I think it was, I thought about Hamilton as driver of the day or someone like that, and so how dare you put him as driver of the day? My driver of the day was Nicholas Latifi. I'm just like, mate, you finished like 6 laps down. He had like 20 spins. Like, why was he so good? It was better than Russell. What?
That's like Formula One's version of a participation award, isn't it? Well, you finished. Good job. Fabulous.
Pretty much.
That's why you can't let the fans control anything.
No.
Right, that's why I'm surprised Formula E still got fan boost as a thing.
It seems to be that Formula E fan boost thing, they seem to be rather respectable when it comes to the voting. Although you do get the odd random. I've watched it a couple of times, and somebody at the back that's usually driving a Neo 333 or something gets fan boost. You're like, they have fans? Do they? Okay.
To be fair, Turvey's a popular driver. It's probably him.
The problem with fan boost is if the team has a decent social media presence or a decent social media person, they're getting the vote. It's if they've not got a presence, they ain't getting the vote. So that's the only issue with it.
I do like Formula E. It's not bad.
It's all right. They did make a screw up at Valencia though. Everybody running out of energy before the last lap. They're like, then they tried to.
It's a proper cover up, weren't it? It's like, oh no, the team's made the mistake.
No, they blamed the driver.
Yeah.
Said it was was it Verne or whoever it was, Da Costa or somebody who was leading during the
for getting the +1 lap.
Because he went too quick because he had to slow it back. So if he slowed it back, it wouldn't be. So he ended up with 2 laps rather than 1, and everybody ran out of. there was 9 classified finishers because they all ran out of usable energy.
I've seen that.
I also loved how who was it? It was Roland and I think one of the Nissans, one of the Neos, who they hit 0% allowed energy. Obviously the battery's not actually flat. And they were just like, sod it, gun it to get to the line. It's just hope that they are the first of the non-classifieds. They just got DQ'd anyway. Around up 18th, 19th and 20th. As opposed to just stopped.
The cars run with 40% of the energy left. It's just this usable energy. And behind the safety car, they get 5 watts taken off them for every lap or something. It's bizarre.
It's a kilowatt for every minute, I think, behind the safety car.
But what
and they've got 50 something loud.
Yeah, but what it was in the regulations, the race director could have decided, look, see this because of this last lot, because there was a lot of safety cars because the gravel and stuff like that. He could have, it was in the regulations for him to say, look, don't bother, just go.
Yeah.
Which would perfect. It would have been a 2-lap sprint, but it was a 1.5 lap sprint, and then everyone's just slowed down and stopped, and everyone's going, even the commentators were like, right.
Yeah.
I'm just
Especially,
looking-
it'd be easy in that series because you have like that direct access to the director. Because like
Huh?
you even get a countdown to full course yellow, like sort of like
Yeah.
WEC. So it's not exactly like we're being hard to follow. Anyway, I think we're getting a bit off topic here.
No, it's all right. Oh, I'm just looking at the results now. Verne was the last classified finisher, 4 minutes and 19 seconds off the lead, but he finished on the lead lap, so he gets 2 points. It's just ridiculous.
It was an absolute cluster. It was unreal, and you're like, oh, and it was so avoidable. It was unbelievable. And then, of course, as you guys said there, FIA, the Formula E came out and went, it was the driver's fault. And you're like, well, actually, not really.
Yeah.
I mean, he replied and went, no, I'm not taking that. It was
Fair enough,
it was
yeah.
2 fingers up to the series without actually physically putting 2 fingers up. But it was horrible, and as you say, I quite enjoy watching it. It took me a few races to get used to the noise and the engines, but you quite enjoy it. And then you watch that, and you're like, oh, what have you done? Oh no! It's the
You're
worst
doing
thing.
so well.
It's the worst thing you can do because everybody goes on about it being electric, and if they run out of electricity and all this kind of power, and all of a sudden
It's not a good
they were
image, is
all
it?
just rolling to the side of the track, and even the people that were there, the journalists that were there, were like, "We don't know what's happened." Hours after it, they still didn't work it out. They were like, "Right, so who's won? We don't know. How many folk finished?" At least in Formula One, when cars fail, you can tell. There's plumes of smoke and bits of engine everywhere. Like, oh yeah, it's broken.
Definitely something going wrong there.
Yeah. Oh, there's a wheel. Okay, yep. There's a white car facing the wrong way. It's Mazepin. We already know it's fine. He's allowed to do that. It's fine. Not a bother. It's okay. But yeah, that was weird. Hopefully they fix it. Hopefully they do something, but didn't sound like they were anyway at first.
It's a weird one, isn't it? Anyway, I gotta get going. But it's been great having you both on. Great catching up. And
No
Coops,
bother.
if you ever want to come on again, you're more than welcome.
Will do, yeah. Not a bother. Will do. Enjoyed it. It was good fun.
That's it. All right, lads. See you later. Take care.
Have a good one.
See ya.
Take care.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye.